Once upon a time, the Catholic Church put all of its teachings into one big, long book called the Catechism. Want to know what's in it? Awesome. That Catechism guy is here to explain it all. You're welcome. Hello, children. Sorry. Hey, that Catechism guy coming at you again. We're now in part 1 of the Catechism. No more prologues. No more just, we're warming up, Chris. I'm about to. No, we are in the actual thing. Here we go. Part 1, the profession of faith. So remember, the Catechism is broken up into many parts. How many? 4. 4 parts. So we're in part 1, and this is the profession of faith. What's a profession of faith, Mr. Catechism guy? Profession of faith is, in Mass, we all get together after some stuff happens. I can't remember all of a sudden. A prayers of intercession. After the prayers of intercession, we say the Nicene Creed. That's our big profession of faith. But instead of using the Nicene Creed, the Catechism uses the Apostles' Creed. So when we talk about the profession of faith, it's going to go line by line. But before it goes line by line, part 1 has 2 sections. The first section is called I Believe, We Believe. And it starts us off just talking about what the idea of belief is. So let's dive in. Paragraph 26. We begin our profession of faith by saying I believe or we believe. Before expounding the Church's faith as confessed in the Creed, celebrated in the liturgy, and lived in observance of God's commandments and in prayer, we must first ask what to believe means. So before the Church dives into all the different things that the Creed talks about and teaches, and then before it dives in part 2 about all the liturgy and the sacraments and the meanings of those things, before it dives into how to live a good and holy moral life via the commandments and the Beatitudes, and last but not least in part 4, before it dives into the Our Father and prayer, wants to talk about what belief means. Because one of the reoccurring themes that you'll see in this catechism is the idea that none of this matters. None of this is important unless we believe in God. Unless we believe that there is some all-natural, all-powerful being floating around out there, none of this is important. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about this idea of belief. Faith is man's response to God, who reveals himself and gives himself to man at the same time, bringing man a superabundant light as he searches for the ultimate meaning of his life. Think of that as like a circle, right? So you've got faith, right, is man's response to God, and then you've got man's search for God, but then you also have God helping man in this search. I remember someone I was talking to the other day brought up the idea of baptism, and this idea that before baptism, you can't receive God's grace. And I was like, no, shut it down. That is not what we teach. We absolutely believe that God's grace works in everyone's life. And when you come to God, when you make that recognition, when you have that conversion to faith, it is God's grace that brought you to there. St. Augustine talks about that when he talks about his conversion, and he thanks God for giving him the grace to believe. And so then as you're searching and God is helping you search, faith is your response. Faith is that moment when you're like, okay, yes, I recognize, I see this, I believe in you, God, I believe that you are there with me, and now I'm going to try to follow you. So let's talk about the I believe, we believe. And the way the Church is going to do that, thus we shall consider first that search, chapter 1, coming up next. Then the divine revelation by which God comes to meet man. A lot of times when you talk about revelation, you probably are familiar with the Bible. Christ is considered to be the fullness of revelation. So all the ways that God reveals himself, hence the term revelation. And finally, the response of faith. So because of this our search and then this revelation, we now have come to believe in God and have that faith. Thank you so much for listening. Can't wait to dive into the profession of faith with you. I thought you were gonna throw up. Like,